Okay, we're going to have a look at a little 5E3 amp. Thing originally came to me from a guy from eBay. It was out of 5E3, but he had, DC heaters, and he had a bias thing that you could adjust the bias at the back. It's all pretty funky. Not quite sure why there's a toroidal on it, but there is. Came from one of the Filmer Sound chassis. It was awful. Hummed, blah blah blah, it was awful. Gutted it completely. Loosely based on a 5E3. There's only one input and there's no bright or dull, so there's only one volume. Both of those, that circuit then go into the one side of a V1. The second side's not used. Into the phase inverter, and off we go. So after the one side of the 12AX7, it's completely 5E3 until the rectifier, for God only knows whatever reason, there's no centre tap on the high voltage of the tranny. I suspect it was for a silicon rectifier instead of a tube. So I had to get a centre tap with some diodes, but seems to work pretty nicely. There's a Bromar 12AX7 at the moment in V1, a Rayathon 12AT in V2, two Mullard 6V6s from US, and an Australian Mullard 5Y3. 8 ohms out, haven't used the 16 ohm winding. Cab is a field design, ported at the bottom. It's got a JBL, I think it's an E120, buckets of bottom end in it. As you know, the 5E3s go from 0 to flat out to hyper flat out in a couple of turns, a couple of notches on the dial. If you want cleans, it's probably not your amp because there's not a great deal of volume control. But if you want some saturation, happy days. This is your tone machine, and it's tiny. You know, from here to here, it's probably 33, 34 centimeters or so. It's only that wide at the back, and it's that high. Beautiful little machine. Guitar is this is an old 72 Les Paul recording. Gibson Bucker here. I can't remember if it's a Duncan or a Damasio here. I put in some funky switch 20 years ago. I think it is going parallel or series with the humbuckers through the switch here, but to be honest I can't remember. And an old Telecaster 60 something or other pickup in here. Hums like a bastard, I hate it, rarely use it. But there you go. Strings are pretty old, they're probably, embarrassingly old, so it won't be a super crisp sound, but you'll get an idea. So we'll wind the volume and the tone up at various points and show you what you can do. Okay, we'll start off in tone about halfway, run the volume up to, and the guitar will all be all flat out, and run this up to a quarter, show you what we got. The mic in the camera is pretty ordinary. It's probably compressing the hell out of it, so you can't really hear the dynamic range of this thing, but it's pretty wild. Okay, let's run the tone up to 3/4. Let's make it bark a bit. If we really want to make it bark, go to the middle on its own. Whatever switch that was. That buzz also is the wine rack, forget about that. Go back to the bridge. Let's wind the tone just about to flat tap. It doesn't oscillate at flat out, but I never really run it at flat out, just in case. Alright. 3/4 and we'll ramp up the volume and show you how it gets more saturated. So this is at 1/4. No volume increase from probably 1/4 right up, but saturates a lot more and a lot more overtones. Here we go with a couple of differences just for the pickups, just to show you what they can do. So that's been the bridge. Let's go with the middle, the funky switch. Essentially the same volume, but tames it quite a bit. Drop the volume to about half. So there you go. Now, an interesting thing that I found, if you run the tone between 1/4 and 1/2, ramp the volume up. So that's set about 8-ish, I guess, volume or so, maybe 9. Get the saturation of the volume that you would expect, and yet you do get plenty of volume overall. So the tone almost acts like another volume control. Lots of fun. So there you go. Dig out an old amp, gut it, whip yourself up a 5E3 and knock yourself out.